Well, hello, friends. Welcome back to the Patience to Prosperity podcast. So happy to have you here. I'm sitting outside today while I record this, so enjoy the birds chirping in the background and try your best to ignore any disturbance that may come about. But I honestly really like recording outside because even those little sirens in the background or dogs barking or someone mowing their lawn, I think just kind of adds to my whole purpose with this podcast, which is to show up as you are. I end every single episode saying, come as you are and leave a little more healed. And what's the point of showing up trying to be perfect? Like, that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. So, before we get started, this episode is going to be more than just me talking about all of the things that I learned in Italy. I'm using that as the foundation for the framework that came from it. And that's where I got all of my lessons from. But this is going to be a deeper conversation than just me talking about all the fun I had in Italy, you know? So just to set the scene a little bit, I was in Italy for like exactly a month, and it was the best experience of my life. I really don't have to go in depth with that because I feel like that's a given. But I learned some really beautiful things that I feel like were honestly like right under my nose the entire time. And it took me being in an environment that was slow paced, that really prioritized communication and family time and bonding with others, but also like being in your own solitude and embracing all of the beauty in life in a slow paced manner. It took that for me to be able to actually fully not unlock these lessons, but actually like embrace them, you know? And I think that just comes with being present. Like when you live a slower life, it's easier for you to be present in your life, you know? With that being said, the first thing that I want to talk about has to do with living from your heart, not your mind. Because this is something that I felt called to do before I even left for Italy. And I knew that it was going to be the determinant of what made this trip so special, right? Because as humans, it is such a blessing and also a curse to have a mind that is able to think so freely about things. Because, sometimes it helps you get to conclusions about things and it gives you peace of mind to be able to think deeper. But also sometimes you just end up running yourself in circles, trying to come up with every single possible outcome that can surface from something, when in reality, literally anything can happen, and there's no fucking point at trying to control the outcome of things whatsoever. And we know that. Like, I'm just stating the obvious here. So, with that being said, my whole intention going into this trip was to live out of my heart space. I really wanted to just fully be there. I didn't want to think about anything back home. I didn't want to, let the unfamiliarity of things ruin my experience. And it was cool because I really feel like, obviously being in a new country helped me look at things with fresh eyes. But it's interesting because I feel like I took that perspective, that new sort of way of looking at things into my life here in America, which is really interesting because I literally feel like I'm looking at things that I've seen a million times before with an entire new perspective. Like I literally feel like I got a new set of eyeballs. And I don't know, it's really cool. It's just a cool feeling because it's made me feel like, you know what, I am kind of evolving. Like I am a different person, and that's really fucking cool. So obviously I'm talking about living in your heart space a lot, and I think it's only necessary to actually mention how the hell we do that. Like, how do you just get out of your mind, you know? It's not easy, and especially when you've been living in your mind for so long, that's how you've trained yourself now to approach life, not just to approach certain situations. Like that is how you approach life, is by overthinking, is by worrying, is by, living out of regret and mistrust. every single time you're overthinking, you're not trusting. So, one of the lessons that I actually had here was that you don't have to understand why or how something unfolds. Say something happens in your life and it brings up this thought of, what did I do to deserve this? Like, what did I possibly do by living a life with zero ill intent? What did I possibly do to deserve something this gut wrenchingly devastating? You know? And sometimes you have to really pull yourself out of it and realize that it's happening for you, not to you. You are not a victim to the circumstances that you're faced in life. You're not a victim to it. They are happening for you so that you can evolve and that you can meet yourself at the next level. I always say the only evidence that you actually need is your own intuition, your own calling, your own knowing that something is meant for you or that something is not meant for you. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't need anyone's advice. All you need is a little fire burning inside of you, no matter how small, no matter how hidden it is from others. All you need is that little fire burning, because that is what actually ignites your soul. Lately I've been pondering a lot on the idea of being delusional, right? Because when you're someone who has really big dreams, and especially when you're chasing those dreams actively, you're gonna look fucking batshit crazy to other people. You're going to look insane and delusional to like 99% of people. The only people that are not going to look at you sideways are people who are also chasing a dream and people who actually see the magic inside of you. And I posted a TikTok not too long ago about how it's really interesting how often we find that people inside of our close-knit circle, like our family members or even our best friends, sometimes are the exact people that don't see the magic inside of us. They don't see how big our potential actually is sometimes. And you can go back and forth and think, okay, well, maybe that means they don't actually know us. And that could totally be true. But also, it could just be that they have a sort of protective thing over you. Where, if it's your mom that we're talking about in this conversation, I know personally with my mom, she inflicts her fears on me whenever I take a risk because she just wants me to be safe and she wants me to do what she thinks is best for me by keeping myself sort of sheltered, you know? Like even going to Italy, since I'm talking about it right now, was something that she was a little nervous about before. She wasn't like, just go book your flight, go on your merry way. She was definitely hesitant and was trying to hold me back a little bit from that. And it says something about being restricted by people who are in your close-knit circle, because a lot of the times we know that it's just other people projecting their fears and their doubts onto us. But what we don't realize is that subconsciously we can mistake our own feelings and beliefs about ourselves with those of other people in our circle. So you are not actually scared to chase this dream right now. You're not actually scared to go and take that next step that seems really risky and really up in the air because you have no idea if it's going to work or not. And the only evidence that you are actually abiding by is your calling, like I said in the beginning. So it's hard because deep down inside, you have that knowing, and that knowing that you have is totally based in trust. But you have layers of doubt and fears surrounding it because of the people in your circle, because of all the energy that you're taking on that isn't actually yours. So I think that it's just important to note that you have to use your discernment right now and figure out what thoughts, ideas, and beliefs are yours, and what thoughts, ideas, and beliefs you're just holding on to that are actually not yours to begin with. And we go through that a lot when we're healing because I know for me personally, I had to heal from a lot of beliefs that were not even mine to begin with. Maybe they were my mom's. Maybe they were just a random thing that someone said to me in second grade that I didn't realize that I was holding on to, like it is random things that stick with us. And it's so interesting though, because when you actually do heal from those things, you understand why you had to go through it, because you know that you wouldn't be the person that you are now without going through that thing. So it's so interesting how the universe makes us hold on to even the most mundane little conversations that happened years ago that we don't even remember. We have to recall through like immense healing to figure out where that root came from? But it's in those times of tribulation, it's in those really long waiting periods of, just waiting to turn the corner, waiting to be finally done, to kick this trauma to the curb and to finally feel like you have some peace of mind. It's in those really long stretches of time, at least they feel really long, when we actually learn more lessons than we thought we were going into it. And it's vital to learn those lessons in order to turn the corner. So, just going back to what I was saying about you don't have to understand why and how. Looking back at little Lizzie here for a second, I was sitting on the beach in Italy and I was just thinking about, how we don't have to always have it figured out. And that spiked the conversation of being a know it all, right? And how when you think you know everything, you actually know nothing, right? I always say that. But then I realized when I was younger, my mom used to always call me a know it all. And like, obviously, it's hard to figure out exactly why she was saying that because I don't remember exactly what I was saying or doing that made her say that to me at that time in my life. Like, my memory is so bad, I don't remember what I ate for dinner last night. I have a horrible memory. But I do remember her saying that to me. And that's the thing. People are not always going to remember what you say to them, but they will remember how you made them feel. And I remember that every single time my mom said that to me, it made me feel so little. It made me feel like someone was literally just like stepping on me and like kicking me to the curb every single time. So I probably fought back with fire, right? Which to her only solidified my know it all, quote unquote, know it all quality that I was holding even more. And I'm not saying it's good to be a know it all, but what I'm getting at here is that when you are a child, people look down upon you, right? They think that you don't know anything, you are not knowledgeable about anything because you have no wisdom, because you haven't experienced enough life to carry wisdom within you, right? But it's actually the opposite when you're a kid because it's not to say that you're super knowledgeable about life, but all you have when you're younger is your own emotions and feelings. That's literally all you have. So that coincides with the fact that all you really have is your intuition when you're younger. Obviously, you don't know that that's what it is, but every single time my mom was calling me a know it all for thinking I knew the way in a path that we were walking down, or saying that this certain tree is whatever it was, or that a certain dog was this certain breed or whatever. Like, every single time my mom would call me out for being a know it all, I bet you 9 times out of 10, it was probably just an intuitive nudge that made me say that thing. Confirmation bark from that little ass dog yapping in the background. God, I love dogs, and no shade, no hate if you got a little dog like that, but how do you listen to the high pitched yap every single day? It drives me insane. Anyways, so here's the thing with the intuitive nudge when you're that age. You don't understand your relationship with a higher power at that age, right? Even if you were born into a family that went to church every Sunday, or, you had a really spiritual mom who tried to integrate certain things like that in nature for you, whatever it was, you don't really understand it at that age, right? Because we don't have that much wisdom, like I was saying. But you feel it all. You feel it all. So, one of the things that really came clear to me while I was in Italy was the fact that worrying and overthinking, stupid ass dog. I'm like, I have something to say right now and I need to get it out, and this fucking dog is trying to talk over me. Like, I should have him on the fucking podcast or something. Like, my God. If you want to get on the mic, just say that. So worrying and overthinking equals mistrust. Like you are not trusting that everything's going to work out when and how it's supposed to when you're worrying about it, when you're trying to control the outcome or the speed of how fast something happens or how slow something comes in. But when you're a kid, you don't worry about things as much. You are the most carefree that you literally ever are in your entire life because you don't have as much experience. You don't know what leads to this, what leads to that. Like, you have experienced less life. You don't know the repercussions of things as much. So, you're more of a risk taker. You're more carefree because of that. So, you don't worry as much. And worrying equals a lack of trust, and a lack of trust equals no faith in anything higher than you, right? So children are actually the closest thing to source because they don't worry. So there's nothing blocking them from receiving abundance in their life. There's nothing blocking them from their own intuition because what they feel just is. It just simply is. And that's why I feel like I was called to know it all so much growing up, was because I actually was just following my intuition. And when you follow your intuition, it's not always going to make sense. And honestly, quite frankly, it shouldn't. Like I said in the beginning, you should look delusional. To small minded people, you should look delusional. People should be looking at you sideways and calling you crazy sometimes when you explain your dreams to them. But it's also not your job to explain your dreams to small minded people. You should confide in people that are also chasing a dream. You should confide in people that see the magic in you, that actually realize how much power you hold. Because that's what's actually going to reinforce it for you and reassure you that you are a power source, that you hold all of the power within you to make anything happen. Like when you have faith in a higher power, what you forget is that the power really does lie within you. You still have to work with that higher power in order to create abundance in your life. It's not like when we have faith in something, we're just sitting back, kicking our feet up and drinking a martini thinking that, it's just going to come when it comes. Like, no, you are actively working at it. And I think that it's really easy to get in your head sometimes and forget that there's a very thin line between seeking something out and trusting that it's going to come in. And what I mean by that is that sometimes when we are getting these intuitive nudges that, something's meant for us and we're meant to work on this and do this and that, we'll try to double back sometimes and be like, oh, maybe I'm seeking it too much. Maybe I'm just like, calling it out too much and I'm not trusting. But you are actually seeking it out every time you're working towards it. Every thought you have towards it, every action you put towards it, every tangible step that you take towards it is you seeking it out. So that's why it's such a fine line because, in the conversation of abundance and manifestation, especially, you often hear people saying, I don't chase, I attract. And what that breeds is us thinking that we should feel shameful about seeking something outside of ourselves. But when you have an intuitive calling that something is meant for you, inevitably you are going to be seeking something, And that's not to say that you can't be grateful for what you already have and also know that you're destined for more. Like, those two things can exist at the same time. And when you grow up from a family that uses abundance against you, that, tells you you're ungrateful for seeking something more, it creates this really rough relationship with abundance in your life. It puts you in this place where it's really hard for you to receive abundance in your life because all you've ever known is that when you seek outside of yourself, you are being ungrateful for what you already have. So, furthering this conversation, another thing that really came clear to me while I was in Italy was how much you actually clear pathways by creating. And I know that sounds like I'm just stating the obvious, But there's a reason why every single time you feel called to share a message and let the fear of it stop you from doing exactly that, there's a reason why you feel that fire in your throat. There's a reason why you feel that weight on your shoulders still when you don't release that. And it could be as simple as like, oh, I love these pictures that I took. I want to post them on Instagram. But then getting in your head about how people are going to perceive it, so stopping yourself from doing it. Creating is a form of release. And the key to creating something that brings abundance into your life is by setting the intention that you are creating that thing to release it into the world, not to enlighten other people. I always say, people are going to perceive it however they are going to perceive it. So you trying to put it out in a way that someone perceives it in a certain way is holding you back from getting all of the knowledge and the wisdom and the lessons and the abundance that comes from releasing that thing into the world. Like, you're blocking yourself from receiving that when you do that. You have to realize that every single time you create something and you allow yourself to be seen in the process of becoming, you allow yourself to create something that isn't your best work. Every single time you do that, you're creating directly with Source. And not only that, you're letting Source move through you. And that's the most powerful thing that you can possibly do, because that's when you meet a collective where the way that they perceive it and the way that they take the knowledge that you're giving to them is in a way that you could not have possibly thought of yourself without them perceiving it that way. Like, I often get comments on my TikTok or Instagram reels that branch off of what I was saying in whatever video I posted. And I'll comment back to these people and be like, I literally never thought of it that way. Thank you for sharing your perspective on this. That really just furthered my knowledge on this topic. Like, thank you. And it's so beautiful because what you don't realize is that every single time you create something, you are part of the conversation. There is an ongoing conversation going on that you don't even realize is going on around you, that you are a part of every single time you create something. And it's so beautiful because that's how you create a collective of this beautiful community that's tailored towards your own knowledge, your own thinking, your opinions, and the way that you approach life. So your abundance comes from creating an environment full of people who support you and your vision and your way of thinking by just being yourself. Literally, the key is being yourself, being authentic. And the only way that you can be authentic is by trusting that you can be authentic, because it's going to reach the people it's supposed to. Not only that, it's going to weave out the people that it's not supposed to reach, which is what is scary about it, because sometimes you have to reach the people it's not supposed to reach before you reach the people that it is supposed to reach. And that can be really scary because your first creations are obviously not going to be your best. And those are often the ones that get perceived by the people that you don't want to be perceived by. But that's where the power lies, in the fact that you are letting yourself be perceived by those people anyways. You have the courage to be seen at the beginning, when you're still a beginner, when you're not even as well-rounded in your craft. You have the courage to let yourself be seen by those people still. That's what creates confidence. And then you step into a whole different, brand new version of yourself when you are ready to be seen by the bigger collective of people that are meant to receive your art. I feel like I'm flowing right now. I feel like I'm on one because I really needed to get this message out, and I can't wait for you guys to hear what I'm saying. Like, I know this is going to reach the people it's supposed to reach, because I was just sitting outside and I just felt so called to sit down, and I didn't even know what I had to say to you guys. But hey, here we are. So I feel like the overarching theme that I'm coming up with right now is trusting, right? That was a huge, huge theme while I was in Italy, but I also brought it into my life here in America. And it's been the biggest theme of my life lately, honestly. And I really hope that I stick with that forever. Like, trusting is the most powerful energy that you can be in, because you know that you're going to attract whatever you're meant to attract, even if you don't know what it is. That's the whole name of the game. Like, you're just trusting that it's going to come in no matter what it is. And there's a risk factor in that, absolutely. But guess what? There's also a risk factor in staying the same, in letting yourself stay in a life that doesn't bring you much abundance just because it's safe and familiar. There is still a risk factor in that. And I want to talk a little bit about preparing, because I think that even if you're in this place of fully trusting yourself, you think that you have to prepare yourself for abundance to come in. You think that, if you're not at a place where you're really good at receiving abundance in your life, that you have to prepare yourself to receive that abundance. But the truth is, the preparation comes from trusting, not from trying to prepare yourself, not from going outside of yourself to figure out how to receive abundance. The deeper you move inside of yourself, the more you are preparing yourself to trust. So it all comes down to the fact that your trust must be greater than your fear. You have to trust that this thing is meant for you more than you are scared of whatever is to come, more than you're scared of what if this doesn't work out. Because guess what? If it doesn't work out the way that you planned, it's going to work out in a different way that is more meant for you than what you planned. Like, Source has a way of working things out in a way that we would never be able to think of before. Sometimes it has to be in a way where it removes a shit ton of things in your life all at once, or maybe just one huge thing that you were relying on because you were relying on it. And it put you in a place now where you're completely isolated on your own and you have to figure out how to make do, you know? But that's how it prepares you, because all you can do is trust when it removes certain things from your life. If you're listening to this right now, you're probably tapped into this energy of transition and transforming. I know this collective that I'm talking to right now feels like they are sitting on something huge right now, and you're about to turn this corner, or maybe you just did, and painful endings just make way for new beginnings. And we know that. Like, truly deep down inside, we know that because we have evidence for it in our own experience with life. And it doesn't mean that it makes it any easier to say goodbye to certain things. Like, right now, I think I'm really internalizing the goodbyes that I'm subconsciously saying in my life, because I know that the second that I turn this corner into receiving all of this abundance, my life that I know right now is never going to be the same. And that's a really scary feeling, but it's also so beautiful. Like, I know I'm destined for more than what I'm shown right now. So it's so beautiful that I'm making way subconsciously for this abundance to come through. But that doesn't mean that it's easy, and that doesn't mean that it doesn't spark up these really heavy emotions. And if you're listening to this, I want to just reaffirm you that whatever's coming up for you right now is okay to feel. And it doesn't mean that you are taking steps backwards. Like, I think that when certain emotions come up and trigger certain things in us, when we're someone who's really dedicated to ourselves and our healing journeys, we take it as, oh, I must not be as healed from this as I thought. But all it is showing you that this can come up again, and you can prove to yourself that you have grown so much by choosing differently and handling that situation and that emotion differently than you would have in the past. That's what proves to you how much you've grown, by choosing differently and moving differently. And I'm just so proud of you if you are resonating with that right now. Like, you're really stepping into something huge. And I hope that you realize that's where all this anxiety and fear of the unknown is coming from, is in the fact that you are about to step into something bigger than you've ever known. And that's what's scaring you. Last thing that I want to talk about that's kind of off topic, but very relevant to the topic of what I learned in Italy. I just really found so much beauty in aging. And this is relevant to the conversation because it's not just in the physical form of getting wrinkles and your skin sagging and getting sunspots and all of the things that come with aging, right? That we can think of. But in the actual soul level, like I'm talking about, you feel like you're jumping timelines right now. You feel like you're stepping into portals every single day. Because, like I said, your preparation is in the act of trusting. And when you step into that energy, you literally are skipping timelines. Like you're jumping through portals. So that's why you feel so heavy right now. That's why everything feels like it's happening all at once. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys. I really enjoyed talking to you guys today. Like, that was a really fun conversation that I really feel like I had to have without even knowing that I had to have it even 30 minutes ago. Like, it literally just came up so spontaneously. I just felt called to this mic. So take that as you will. Take whatever lesson comes up for you when I said that and run with it. Be delusional. Strive to be looked at as crazy by other people for following your dreams. That means you're doing something right, and that means you're dreaming bigger, and as you fucking should. As you should. Stop putting yourself in a box. Stop limiting your potential. Stop being afraid of your own potential. You're literally incredible, and you need to realize that sometimes. Tell yourself you love yourself today because it goes a long fucking way. It goes a really long way. Anyways, always remember that you're loved and you're beautiful and you're amazing and there's no one like you. And that's all I got. As always, come as you are and leave a little more healed.